This is TVA by Jenna, a podcast about entertainment issues brought to you by darkcrazy.com.
This is Marvel Age Star Wars special Mandalorian edition, now up to episode 5 of season 2.
Yeah.
The Jedi.
Very cool. Yay. My name's Brooks. That's
Sean.
Andrew. Sean.
That's Greg.
Greg.
Hard to say.
Yeah, I'm actually up in the top corner here, Sean. Way up here.
To you.
Yeah, but it's different on mine.
Yeah,
we don't know where you are.
consistency.
It's weird.
It's a Zoom mystery.
Here's the story.
All right.
For
You know who we are.
Who watch TV?
So, yeah, very, very fun. I have to say, just as a sort of PSA coming into this, all right, I know that the Mandalorian episodes drop at midnight, and I know there's an ecosystem on YouTube that thrives on these reaction videos, but can we just consider that it's rude to put out your reaction video at like 6 a.m. on the day of?
I would say I knew exactly where you were going there because I actually spoiled a little bit myself.
Yeah, they don't tell you what's revealed, but they tell you what's revealed. They're like,
and why?
The Baby Yoda's backstory and everything is going to be revealed. It's like, I don't want to know that.
That soon. I mean, who out
like I
there
said,
is like,
it's an industry. These guys, I mean, they're good. They clearly get the episode, watch the episode when it first drops, and manage to cut a reaction within hours.
I get
but
that.
It drives me nuts, man.
But who's the audience that wants to see it before they've seen the show?
Nobody.
So
they're just trying to beat each other to the punch.
Yeah,
they want to be the first one to say they broke the news.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. Don't do it. That's a bad.
I have that. I didn't see,
or at least
on YouTube,
or at least like on your banner, like on your frame grab, don't put a spoiler on your frame grab.
But of course they will.
Oh my God.
They don't consider it a spoiler. But
see, that's what happened to me.
Who's going to be in the episode and what it's going to be about?
Because that's what got me. It's like I clicked it on. It's like,
I'm like, I guess from now on, I can't look at YouTube at all until I've seen The Mandalorian on the day of.
Let me show you, because it's actually right here on my phone. I don't know if you can see. I open up Chrome. Google's there. The very first thing that shows up, these recommended stories. Oh, there's a picture of Ahsoka Tano right there. It's like, well, now I know she's in the episode. I mean, I saw that before I saw the episode. It was like there that morning.
Yeah, I hate that
I'm like,
stuff, man.
you guys, come on, man. I can't not see that. It's there.
Well, see, I knew Ahsoka would probably be in it.
That wasn't as big a thing, but I don't want to hear. Like, this is the episode where Baby Yoda's backstory is going to be revealed. It's like Uproxx put that out. I couldn't even look at Facebook.
That's what I'm saying. It's everywhere, guys. Give us a minute.
Like, let us see the fucking thing.
Some of us have lives, man.
For real.
Some of us don't have exciting
lives. It comes
lives,
out on Friday.
We do have things that we have to do.
Might.
I think that's just a testament of how big the show is now. It's just a good thing. Because that was the same thing with Game of Thrones. If you didn't watch it, you need to watch out the next day.
The way HBO controlled that was that Game of Thrones actually had an airtime. It came out like Sunday night at 9. So you knew, I'm not watching it the next day on demand. When Game of Thrones comes on, we're watching it. Because we want to be part of the discussion.
I guess you could say,
but
Mando
you can't
has
say
time.
We're going to get up at midnight and watch Mandalorian like weirdos. Like if it were up to me, Disney would drop the show at like 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock or something instead of at midnight on the day of. But that ecosystem supports them, so there's nothing. It doesn't benefit them to withhold it from that sort of commentary cycle.
We just have to not look at our phones until we watch the show.
Well, during the first season, I remember that's what would be happening because I mean, my job is pretty lax when we're there. Like, when we were there, I almost watched that entire first season at work, like at 9 a.m. on Friday mornings, because I'm like, me and my friend Zach are like, let's just watch it. And everybody saying, yeah, somebody else had already seen it, started talking. I was like, don't start talking about it. Hold on. Give me 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, I watched it. We can talk about it.
We'll be back in 45 minutes.
This is the first year I watched it at home. I'm like, okay, this is nice.
I thought it was great. Let's get to it.
Yeah, as you can imagine, there were a lot of big things to talk about in this episode, which is
Well,
why.
and this is the episode we've been waiting for. This is what I'm talking. This is the
Yeah,
Yeah.
very fun, very cool.
cool around the board from visuals to acting to just lore dump that we get. That's what we're waiting for. This is what we're waiting for this season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cameo.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, a lot of fun stuff.
I don't even know where to
Beans in this
start.
episode. Like,
We're the new center here.
it took me a minute to recognize that Michael Bean was in this amongst all the other
Yeah.
awesome stuff going on. It's
I
like,
was
oh my god!
I was like, wait a second, Mike. It was right when before he dies. I'm like, hey, wait a second. You know, that's the first time they show him close up.
I recognized his voice more than his face when
was-
when they first
I
showed
heard his
him.
voice first, and I was like, that just,
He
you
just
know,
looks
I
smart.
finally kicked in by the end of the show. But yeah, it took
When
me
he-
a while to figure it out.
It's when he first starts talking to Mando, because when he's standing up on the thing, he's like, "We will be ready for them," and I'm like, I didn't recognize him as anybody. But then when Mando shows up, I was like, "What's in your pocket?" And like all of a sudden, he kind of takes on his actual personality there, and I was like, "That's Michael Bean."
In that moment, you realize, like 20 years or 30 years ago, he'd be playing Mandalorian because he's got the
Yes.
same sort of voice.
Yeah.
He could play Cobb Vanth. He's awesome. It made me
Oh,
realize
that
that
was
Timothy Oliphant is sort of like the young Michael Bean now. Like he doesn't have that
Right.
gravelly voice like Michael Bean has, but he just has that cool, tough. And he's a lean kind of guy. He's not like a big tough guy. Like that's not the kind of toughness he has. Like,
Right.
that's what I always loved about Michael Bean. He's like he just has a sort of air
Yeah,
about him.
Mandalorian, I think.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That's my only regret is that he comes in to play this bad guy and doesn't last very long. But
The coolest thing about this episode at the beginning of it is that we get to start off with like one of the coolest like Jedi infiltration sort of. He's
Yeah.
a Jedi, not
Yeah.
all right, but we'll get it. But anyway, like just that scene is so well done.
Mhm. Yeah, it was good to see a good straight up like just Jedi taking care of business.
Because they build it up like it's some
Yeah.
attacking monster or force or something. And you're like, oh God, you don't. And then you just see the white lightsabers like, oh,
yeah.
I love how
Like,
she
they're going
disappeared
for it.
into the mists, like just kept disappearing into the fog like a ninja. That was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say,
samurai.
I
movie.
was worried, but I think she did great.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
I think
didn't know if live action would work, but I think she did great. I really do.
I think the makeup was a little off, like in the her main area here.
There's controversy about that. Like there,
But,
there's
but
everything. I read
snips
that
aren't
her
long
things
enough.
aren't long enough, but they said they had to do that for
yeah,
stunt
I mean,
reasons.
well, see, that's,
like it was
I mean,
getting in the way during the fights or something.
Well, I mean, I figured there'd be stuff like that because Ahsoka, I mean, originated as a cartoon character, and you have to
Yeah. It's a live action
Yeah.
interpretation. Just
right.
like we were
Yeah.
saying
I
before,
thought she
she
looked
looks
cool.
different in Rebels than she does in Clone Wars because there's
Yeah.
different styles.
Yeah, like I said, the only real problem I had with it is like when they were sitting there, when they were talking, to the child and everything, they were discussing it. You could see the waves. Like it's
looks
obviously
like a
it was.
squishy toy.
You're right. It was. It looked like a padded like airline neck pillow kind of thing, and
I get
but
that.
I
Bother
mean,
me, but,
yeah, it didn't bother me either.
It
I mean,
looked old school to me.
I thought
I
she
thought it
did
looked
great. I thought her facial makeup was great. I mean,
yeah, the only I've only listened to a couple arguments on, I mean, just little YouTube reactions or people that I saw that didn't like her as it. They're like, well, she did fine, but I don't understand because like, what's her name, Eccleston? Like, she created that character, and I know she's not the right body type, but they could have done. There's like people just complaining with no solution. I was like, okay, but you got to let go of that. First off, this is an interpretation. Oh, this is a person, and you said they did fine. So what are you griping about? They're like pissed that she
Yeah.
couldn't do
She
it.
didn't create the character.
No,
She may have like made
Well,
the voice.
the performance is what they're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
well, yeah, people just
Performance.
identify
She originated
Ahsoka's
character.
voice.
And sometimes you get one like Katie Sackhoff where that character was more or less kind of based on her physicality. So
also,
she could transition to being the live action.
we love Star Wars, and I love it so much, and we all love it. So like, this isn't War and Peace, guys. Come on, it's a cartoon character with a voice, and she sounded fine and great, and she's probably a better actress. Honestly, let's be honest too. Than
Well, I was really excited because I'm a big fan of Rosario Dawson's work.
yeah, I know. She's a great actress. So I was like,
no, I think it was a great choice, and I think like I said, what little quibbles we could have with the makeup is just minor compared to how well.
Anytime that people get to that level upset about this show and other things, like, would you rather not this show happen, or would you rather this show happen? Either that, or there's two choices. Just get over it.
I think she did the action scenes well, because I haven't really seen her do action and all the Marvel stuff. She's always just a nurse who just happens to be.
And I like how they did it. Well, they because it's like, that's the thing. We haven't did it in a real Star Wars movie. They never really get into, not gritty, but what the kind of brutal as this show is, as much as it can do, because it's like when the Logan movie came out, it's like, we finally get to see what Claws would actually do, because they always just cut away from, and they did a good job of this because she's cutting people in half.
Yeah,
they kind of cut back a wide shot of it, and you're like, whoa, it's like she just eviscerated that guy. And they kind of made him half robots too, so I don't know what that counts as either. So,
and this is like someone who's like, first of all, was already ousted from the Order before the Purge happened, and then the Purge happened, and she went through that, and whatever the hell else has been going on. So she's seen some shit.
I like that.
And actually, and also in that fight, she broke a Jedi rule about using the Force for attack. And I don't know if it was done on purpose, but she did that bit where she like knocked over something,
the tree
or something to distract. Yeah, well, not the big tree,
or then threw the log into another guy.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, see, I mean, she was like, kind of going past the bounds of what a Jedi would do.
Jedi, right?
And which is, I mean, cool, but I'm glad they kind of did that, because she's not a Jedi. She's
they made her look unstoppable, like really kind of scary.
Well,
the part at the end where I don't know if it matters. So we don't have to tell us, go through the story as it happens, right? Everyone's seen it. Sure. The part at the end where they're standing on the wall and she attacks and they see her coming, and all of a sudden she's over the edge of the wall. I'm like, holy crap, that's scary as hell. Imagine facing that. You're on a 50-foot wall.
Well, and if our theory is at all correct, and it could be, like we were talking about, why is Palpatine so powerful? Because there aren't very many Siths, so he's got all this combined power of the dark side of the Force. Well, if that's true, then we're at a time where there's maybe 2 or 3 Jedi that we know about in the universe. So Ahsoka Tano is one of the few practitioners of the light side or whatever. Like,
it's only Luke, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, and apparently Grogu.
Yeah, and Leia,
and whoever else.
What do we think of the name?
Yeah, Leia's around.
Kanan, or whatever.
He had to have a name. I'm glad he's not Yoda. That's fine.
Is it Grogu?
I will always call him Baby Yoda until the day he is a full-grown adult.
Well, see, now that this is a collectible Nexus, anything that says Baby Yoda on it is going to be worth more than Grogu.
Well, they don't say Baby Yoda, but they'll say the child on the official.
Yeah.
So that is true. Like anything prior to now would have just been called the child.
A year.
I doubt that's true. As much stuff as they've put out.
They did a great job, though. I love it that whenever he says Grogu, he's just like a cat or a dog. Goes, huh? He's like, what? Never mind.
I love it. I'm still going to hold to my Frozen theory, though, because they're like, okay, so he was a baby at the Jedi Temple, and lots of different Jedis were training him. And then all of a sudden, Order 66 happened. Someone, we don't know who, someone got him out of there, and then he doesn't remember anything after that. Like, so I'm going back to my Frozen theory. That
his baby was on ice, dark or whatever.
Yeah,
I think you're right. And maybe that's to hide him.
Well,
maybe if he was awake, they'd sense his force power.
Maybe my theory that the clone guys did is off. Like maybe it was a Jedi or somebody who got him away.
Well, it could have been Yoda. I mean, Yoda when he
could have been, or
when he went back to the temple, when he and Obi-Wan went back to the temple, he like, oh, there's one other who's like me.
Oh, the baby we forgot.
All this other business going on is like, I gotta go, and they're like, oh,
my nephew
failing everything today.
Yeah,
like Raising Arizona, where they just left him on top of the car. Like, oh
no, just keeps getting worse. This day does.
Literally was watching his sister's kid. She just left him off for a while, and then the thing got attacked him. I don't.
He might have got Grogu and put him in some kind of stasis or something, And,
yeah, I'll buy that. Well, we were just
at least
in the comic book about Jedi trances. Maybe he's in some kind of Jedi trance.
Right.
There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. We got Ahsoka. She was
Very
awesome.
cool.
And we all agree she did great. I hope we see more of her. I'm kind of disappointed that we're like, okay, go here, bye.
I love
I'm
finding
hoping
out that
she should-
Beskar can block a lightsaber.
That
cool.
was
Yeah, that was good.
and it made so much sense. I'm like, why is Beskar such a big deal? But now I'm like, oh,
Block a
that's pretty
lightsaber.
cool.
Well, that,
Yeah, that's
well, it actually makes the Mandalorian Jedi War make a lot more sense because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The
And
lore
it
of that
also-
gets so much cooler to think that they actually could have fought each
Right,
other.
and you never seen him before. How many people can block Jedi stuff? So you realize he's walking around with like a $10 million suit, basically. That's what people do when they see him.
I know. I would paint that shit, dude, because everywhere he goes, like, nice armor.
Well, you're wearing it. You're wearing the armor. What are you going to do?
That means
Try to take it from me.
She immediately just went to cut off his torso or cut off his arm. That's what he blocked it with. It's like, yay,
Yeah, just anyone walking in the woods, you're going
know.
to get attacked. Apparently,
That's why I'm saying
I thought that
some
was
stuff
weird,
has
but
gone down.
it was
for
a
her.
nice
I
little
guess
fight.
that's the first time he's ever.
She
fought a
knows
Jedi, so that's-
Mandalorians. Like, I could have been someone you know. I am
Yeah.
sent by someone you know. God.
And also, it was a great fight, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why the Beskar, because when we talked about before, like Jedi, like Mandalorian, that armor is made to fight Jedis, right? Or came about.
Apparently,
So that's
yeah.
kind of cool. That makes sense now. That's what they
I like how he held his own with her after seeing what a badass she is. He actually held his own. That's pretty.
Well, as I was saying, it's probably
That
the
was fun.
first time he's ever fought a Jedi.
Yeah, and he held his own. It was pretty cool.
I mean, this coming out with 2 lightsabers would have been enough to shock you enough to make you not. Of course, I guess
Yeah.
he was on alert, but
Damn, Ahsoka. Yeah.
yeah.
Grizzled.
Take it down a notch.
Hey,
You know, cut both the guy's arms off before he has a chance to say hello.
You got Ahsoka. You've got this. I'm gonna have to say it because this is my thing. A whole new planet that we haven't seen before.
I
was so
watching the
excited.
episode. It's like, are you happy, Brooks?
Yes, I am
See a planet
happy.
that looks like this one
because
we haven't seen
I haven't seen it. It's so cool.
and those
It's all cloudy and looks like Sleepy Hollow. It's neat.
But it was all
It's
it was
like,
very like that, but
thank
it felt more like samurai movie. It felt more like your
Mhm.
movie, like.
well, I
especially-
think what they said
no,
that
it looked
the
like a-
backstory was like this. The head bad person was stripping the planet for its resources, and that's why it looked so dank.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
neat.
And
That she's
that takes place
interesting.
that takes place in the Ahsoka book too. She's on a planet where the Empire is just strip mining the place.
Well, let's talk about her a minute. The I don't know what her name is in the show. The leader of the bad guys.
Yeah, Morgan.
She was pretty cool. She actually held her own
Yeah.
against Ahsoka too.
I've seen that actress before. She's good. Like I think, yeah, all that led
I
up
read
to the
that-
way.
I said I read that actress, her dad trained her, and her dad was a student of Bruce Lee.
Well,
And Bruce
he's
Lee
her
was
godfather.
actually her godfather. Yeah. How cool is that? And then here she is, kung fu fighting Ahsoka. I was
The
like, that's
Jedi.
awesome.
Well, does that? I was going to ask Sean because he probably know better than any of us if that character appears anywhere else in the extended universe.
I
or
wasn't
expanded
familiar.
universe.
At the very first, I wondered if they were going to try to say that she was one of the Night Sisters, even though she didn't look like a Night Sister, because they were saying how her people got wiped out during the Clone Wars, which did happen to the Night Sisters, but then it happened to a lot of people. But
I think
don't
she
know.
was just a normal citizen who took up fighting at a young age and became an evil person, I guess.
Just a local bad guy.
Well, I'd be curious to know who
Yeah,
her people were,
weird.
if there is a connection to anything that we've heard before.
Well, she's somebody we know that's not just a local bad guy because she's like, where is your master? And that's the big reveal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part.
Thrawn.
Because Greg used to say that about, we're only going to see Ahsoka in the last 5 minutes of the last episode. I'm like, I don't think that's true. What I think is true, and now I'm going to double down on it, because I thought, the last 5 minutes of the last episode is going to be either Grand Admiral Thrawn, which now he's taking the lead in that theory, or Luke Skywalker. Like,
Yeah.
those are the two people that I would bet if there's going to be a big reveal at the end of the season, maybe not like final episode, like final scene reveal, like cliffhanger reveal, but if there's something coming in. But now I feel fairly confident that it's just like Ahsoka Tano. It's like, we name dropped him now.
We literally talked about this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring Thrawn to this. The only thing dumb about that scene, she should have just said Thrawn, not Grand Admiral. So what's up? But the idea now that he's gonna be, this gets me so excited because I'm so happy with him.
Oh yeah.
As a thing, and that's that could. I mean, I hope they, just like with her character, I hope these are just introductions and maybe they can spin off some other series. Like
That's what I want. Yeah.
They almost have to, because they're spinning so many threads out that, like, well, we got Mandalore, we got Thrawn.
Well, that was another thing I wanted to talk about. We are touching on several story arcs in the Star Wars universe. I mean, it almost makes me wonder, is he going to stick with any of these, or is this going to be a recurring thing? It's like every once in a while he's going to run into somebody famous. And that's
because the storytelling.
No, I think there's an intersection here. I really do think that we're going to build to a storyline where Mandalore is important and what bo-katan is trying to do is important. And I think the fact that Gideon has the Darksaber proves that, because that didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, that thread
and they didn't just
goes back to the end of
their thing for nothing either. So.
Yeah, and Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano know each other, so it's not a stretch to say, well, all these things lead back to Thrawn if he's the big bad in charge of Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon, Moff Gideon's working for Thrawn, basically. That makes sense.
Or maybe Thrawn's got, like I said, dealings on Mandalore. Maybe something's going on.
I mean, because that was the whole thing about the books, is that Thrawn had just gathered what was left of the Imperial fleet, and he was the commander. Like, he was the leader of them all.
And if you follow the canonical books that follow Thrawn's early career, they're still building to this idea that there's something where Thrawn comes from, that the whole reason he wants the Empire is because he wants a foothold of someone who can help out with this other threat that threatens his people too. So if they're bringing, because all of Thrawn's books happened before Rebels, so we don't know what happens after Thrawn gets.
Yeah, he has a really long game, just because his Chiss people are getting threatened by this weird race. He joins the academy for 30 years or something.
And we don't even know what the overall threat is, because each new book they establish something like, oh, these guys are the big threat. That's not that impressive. And then the next book's like, no, it's this other thing. Like, so there may be an as yet unrevealed thing that Thrawn is.
The new one's just a prequel series, right? I haven't read the first one of that. I think it's out, right?
The new one? Oh yeah. The new one. The Chaos Rising.
It's just a prequel of like.
Yeah, it's young Thrawn. Yeah, it's like this trilogy seems like it's going back even further. Although it overlaps, because part of the story of this book happens within the same time frame as the second book from the other trilogy, because they have the moment where he meets Anakin Skywalker, and that is an aside in this book. So this book is, I don't know, this trilogy may span a longer period of time overall than the original Thrawn trilogy. But it's fun because they're building Thrawn up, and now he's going to be this big bad guy in the expanded universe somehow. Well, however they choose to use him, he's clearly going to come by.
We don't have a big bad at all. So, I mean, we need a huge kind of thing.
Yeah, Gideon, I guess, has to be connected to him. It'd be weird to have two different Imperial groups.
Yeah.
And somehow all this cloning of what I'm guessing is...
Well, that may be how Thrawn's plan to rebuild the army. I mean, he's trying to make force-sensitive super soldiers or something.
Which would make sense, because Heir to the Empire is not canon anymore. But the first thing Thrawn did in the Heir to the Empire books was go plunder the Emperor's old stuff to find the cloning technology that he still had stashed away.
And that's now in the canon, though, too. There's mountain, because that's in the video game that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, Tantus, was that the name of the mountain?
That mountain, like, safe where it's all the Emperor stuff, that's in that game. So it's part of the canon now.
So it's funny to see that story as is can't be part of canon, but it's funny to see how many elements seep into the new canon, and the fact that Thrawn, they're setting up as being, because Mandalorian is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so it's the exact time frame that the Heir to the Empire book started, when Thrawn first started putting the Empire back together, is the exact same time frame as Mandalorian takes place in now. So it's kind of a fun way to revisit and retool that story into the lore. So that's very exciting. That would be
cool if the scope expanded to, to where you're maybe like Heir to the Empire, and those books sort of threaded themselves back into the,
Yeah,
canon. You know,
if you can establish young Luke, like if you can make that work as a recast and bring in a young Luke, you could totally do an Heir to the Empire style story
would be so
about
cool.
Luke Skywalker.
It's Sebastian
And get in Alden Ehrenreich or whatever to come in as Han Solo.
but the thing about that though is like, well, I guess you would have about what, say if the Solos had been like within a year after the second Death Star, you know, that would
Having
give
kids.
That would give Luke about 10 years or 12 years or so of adventuring time to go before he comes back and tries to train.
And that's
Ben.
plenty of time.
There's plenty of
Yeah.
time. Yeah. In terms, there's got to be a period where Luke is just running around doing Jedi things
Mhm.
before, before Ben comes along in the effort to rebuild. The Jedi Order fails because he tried to train Ben. There's all.
And that was what was cool about what they did when those Thrawn books. I know we keep talking about them, but that's what was cool about those is that they would have stuff going on and they'd send Luke off by himself, almost like as a secret agent. Like he'd go infiltrate the city and then go get in there and do something. Then he'd always like cause catastrophe and have to run away at the end too. He's like running on rooftops and stuff like that. But it was cool though because it's Luke. He knows all the stuff. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's
So,
like their superhero. They know that. Like sooner or later, we need to bring Talon Card into this business because he was another one of those great Timothy Zahn characters.
Yeah,
Would fit perfectly into the Mandalorian.
Yeah, right.
Talon Card was great.
Yeah.
You
But
can
that's what you.
Mara Jade. I don't care about Mara Jade, but Talon Card's a good character.
Well, they probably would bring Mark Jade out to the Luke series, but but we saw that in this one. We got to see a Jedi be pretty cool, like in this. That's a taste of what you could have every week, But it'd be like it'd be more MacGyver-y, like we said, Incredible Hulk, moving on to some area or doing something. It doesn't even have to be super serialized.
I feel like they could use the Mandalorian to test the waters with that. Where, like I said, if this storyline is take Baby Yoda to the mountaintop and see if any Jedi's.
Well, that's
find
what
any
I mean. In
interest.
that game I mentioned, that's what it is. In Battlefront 2, I didn't play the game, but I watched the version of it just to make sure what it was. And your character is trying to break into this thing, so you're getting past all the thing. And once you get up to the door, Luke just shows up and he like helps you infiltrate this base. But then he's like, after he gets what he wants, he gets that little compass thing that's in Return of the Jedi
from
on his
Jedi.
Last Jedi, yeah. So but he's just there and he helps. It's like a Mandalorian episode. He helps and goes, all right, see ya, bye. He just takes off and he leaves. That easily could be what this is.
Which would be fun. And that way, if people lose their minds, like let's say you guys do the smart thing and you get Sebastian Stan to play young Luke. Let's say you go do that. Because you've already bought the groceries. All you got to do is cook. I mean, you have Sebastian Stan working for Disney on a different Disney Plus TV show. It's like you have the relationship there. There's been like he and Mark Hamill both have joked about it. It's known. And it's true. He looks just like him when he was younger. So if you guys do that recast and people lose their minds, then you're like, well, this is a good idea. If you do it and people are like, that doesn't work and it's terrible, you're like, well, it's just one episode of Mandalorian. We won't do that again. Like it's not, we didn't spend $200 million on a solo movie, then find out.
I think that's pretty feasible too, because he's in movies, but he's not a star. He's like Etta Rosario Dawson. You know what I mean? He would totally do a show like that.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, I had to just IMDb him just see if I know who he is now. I love seeing a picture.
It's Winter Soldier, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy signed to a 12-picture deal already.
Yeah.
He's going to be busy. Like, how many nerd projects can you put me into?
Oh,
How many franchises can one guy be in?
Zoe Saldana, she's got the record, and then
Real. What, Pirates,
like an 8
Star Trek.
Pirates, Avatar, Guardians.
This is a good week for me. I know you're not watching it yet, but you got to catch up, Greg. This week's Star Trek was a game changer for me. I loved that.
I'm
my favorite episode of Discovery this week.
I'm about 5 episodes in, actually. I got my free Black Friday month, and so I'm
watch out.
So yeah, and I'm enjoying the season. I mean, it's pretty well written. I feel like, you know, and you know, they had to do some kind of goofy things to give them purpose in this new time period. But but other than that, you know, it's so far it's good. Yeah.
Well, I think you'll like this latest episode. It's called Unification 3, just to give you an idea of what the episode.
I mean, I did see something like where they were looking at holograms, and it's Leonard Nimoy Spock from like the 80s, you know, or something. I mean, I was so yeah.
Well, specifically from Unification 1 and 2.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Well, cool. I mean,
this one was, so this is a good week for me. It's like, wow, this is my favorite episode of The Mandalorian. This is my favorite episode of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, yeah, I'm you know, Discovery got off to a rough start, but
it's a bit weird.
Really,
they've put in the work, and they've corrected
to the point where they've, you know, a really good spinoff sounds like it's in the works. So, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. But yeah, I think they got a handle on what real Star Trek is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about it.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Okay.
Maybe the pandemic's been good for TV because it's forced them to take their attention off movies where they were fully attending, you know, and made them give more focus to what they can produce. And I think
the movies did that though, to Star Wars though.
Well, I think
you're talking about like why they're not going to movies, you're saying, or like more TV shows.
I'm saying that they can't make the movies, especially the Marvel movies and stuff that they want to make. So they're focusing on these smaller projects. And I think a lot of these shows seem like the writing's gotten better than they were a few years ago. Maybe that's just my imagination.
I don't know. I feel like with Discovery, it's been an evolution. For Star Trek, I think it's just the fact that CBS All Access was at the beginning. It's not going to be for very much longer, but it was specifically launched for CBS material. And they knew that they wanted to have Star Trek material to be a flagship of that. And that made them start working a lot harder on Star Trek shows than, say, Paramount was working on the movies, because Paramount had kind of made some questionable decisions on the 3 movies that they made.
And the split
CBS,
was, and the split with Star Trek was that Paramount got to do the movies, whereas CBS Viacom still had TV rights. Is that?
Yeah, well, it's weird thing is it's all Viacom, because Viacom owns Paramount. But yeah, Paramount as an entity does the movies separately of CBS doing the TV shows. And they typically, you know, historically have worked together for the most part. Like when The Next Generation ended, it became the movies because that made the most sense for everybody. So it's not like they were completely separate. But right now, the current Paramount franchise has spiraled off into its own complete separate entity. And then CBS was like, well, we're just going to do this thing. You can have your separate timeline. We're just going to make what we say is still the prime timeline with our shows. And now they're to the point, it's like, we're a streaming service. I don't think anything contractually says we can't make movies for this streaming service. So maybe we'll just make movies too. And now Viacom has really rethought the model for CBS All Access. It's about to become Paramount Plus. So they're sort of bringing that all under one roof, whereas it'll be CBS and Paramount and everything will be one big streaming service. And you would think that would be a good opportunity for them, knowing that Star Trek is now, for some reason, it's a lot more bankable than it has been for them.
Well, they're also giving everything much more money.
It's because of the pandemic, I'm telling you.
But also just because it's on streaming, because HBO, like Max doing that in general, just because you think about it, they're not paying anything. They don't have to lose things to distributors or anything later on. That's why they're giving Zack Snyder $60 million to do the Snyder Cut. They're like, oh, why not? It's like we get all the money back. And that goes.
Their audience has grown, I think, immensely because of the pandemic.
Video out, and that's our ad for it. You know what I mean? We don't have to do all this marketing and stuff like this too.
I could see where that is a good thing. The fact that more people are watching TV because of the pandemic, and then that makes them appreciate TV more. But I would think that probably just the all of these streaming services popping up the way they are was already contributing to that.
It was already in
Marvel's
there was a couple of instances like Peacock. You know, if you got Peacock early in the game, I mean, it was rough. You know, you could tell they were still working on that one, and then the pandemic broke out and they pushed it
Comcast
out.
sucks at cable. I didn't expect them to be great at streaming.
It's better now. It's
Well, Marvel, but I'm saying Marvel movies are still going to plan though. They're still shooting them. They just had to stop shooting them, and they just
They
delayed.
are,
them.
but
I don't think they are.
They need to put Scarlet. They need to put that Black Widow movie out.
Yeah, I
that's
think
one
they
smart
said they were
decision.
going to do that at Christmas.
I know that's what Wonder Woman's doing is Christmas.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
that's what that's what I'm thinking. Never
That's
mind.
what Disney. It's funny how
Marvel
they
just
started out so
basically-
strong.
Marvel just
Disney's
basically
actually
just
dropping
like
the
their whole
ball
thing
on
by-
programming. Everybody's
I know,
got
'cause,
a
like,
lot more programming.
Scarlet Witch is supposed to have been shot and finished, I thought, like a while back. I don't know what they're.
It's coming out soon though. January
No, I
maybe.
don't
Get on it, guys.
well, I think they just they had like a summertime theatrical. They didn't
For Black
release it.
Widow, but
Black-
WandaVision was always supposed to come out Disney Plus. I don't know what the
Well, the ones that are
delay
coming out
on
that were
WandaVision
supposed to come
is.
out this year was
Eternals was supposed to come out this year.
Yeah, Black Widow's
Like-
Eternals, and what's his name?
That's why they need to get Black Widow out, just so they can get back to their regular schedule when they're able to start filming again.
Yeah, for these they just delayed all those by a year, so now it's going to come out in May or whatever. Black Widow.
It's been so long that some of these shows, the Marvel shows coming up, I'd forgotten were even a thing. Like I remembered Winter Soldier, but then I was like, oh yeah, Loki's got a show too. I forgot all about that.
It's been so long that they now have access to make the Netflix shows. The rights have reverted to the
Yeah,
make Daredevil.
yeah,
now.
that's true. Now they got Punisher and Daredevil.
You wouldn't do it on Disney
Luke
Plus, but you
Cage.
could do it on Hulu.
When they announced that Bucky and the Soldier one, the Captain America one, that was like when they announced it, they said it was gonna be 2.5 years away. It's like, why so long? This guy it doesn't take much to make one of these. Like it'll take you 6 months to shoot this show. What is going on here? Like, and they've already released footage from it. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what's
understand
taking so long. I
The
guess
Marvel,
they had to stop shooting on some of this stuff, but
the one good thing is we probably all needed a break after Endgame anyway. And
That's
they
what I'm saying. I
weren't
think
gonna
also
really give us that, and this probably is a
With-
better chance for us to take a breath at before the superhero fatigue really set in.
Yeah, I agree with that because I'm glad that because actually I was not terribly fired up to go see Black Widow. I
I mean, it looked fun, but
yeah, but it
that's not
wasn't
my-
going to be one that I was going to go on my way for.
yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
just not a superhero-y kind of thing. It's more spy kind of stuff, I
Yeah.
guess.
yeah, and it looked awesome. The trailer.
well, it's
looked
also they're
really good.
rebuilding. It's just like they're. I mean, the thing that I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, but also has to do with both like Star Wars and if we're just talking about Star Wars and Marvel, they both got to this window point where they finished their sagas, and they're like, all right. Like Star Wars, especially shying away from any more movies. They're like, yeah, we don't want to do movies anymore. That's for a while. Let's just
Marvel
start.
had a ton of stuff lined up though, and it is all jacked up now. Their schedule.
Yeah,
They just
hopefully
delayed it by a year.
they'll get back on some because some of the stuff they have planned is really exciting. But I am glad there's a little bit of a break because you'll appreciate it more when they start making Marvel movies again. Like especially when there's another
Yeah, 'cause
Spider-Man.
most of the
I'm
stuff-
always excited when there's a Spider-Man anyway, but especially when there's a third Spider-Man, I'm going to be
But
really
most
into it.
shooting and stuff, right? But most shooting and stuff didn't. What hasn't been delayed this entire time? It only and like they started shooting stuff again like in July.
I know. I
Like,
don't
so-
really recommend that either, but
So I mean, and then they have to
They're not
stop,
asking
like,
me.
to the Batman again, and then they got it delayed because he got COVID. So I was like, yeah,
exactly.
Batman got COVID. That's nice.
Got Iron Fist. I mean, not Iron Fist. Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that was.
Shang-Chi.
Like that's another thing that's like just floating out there. I don't know what's happening with it.
It's coming out next year.
We'll see. We don't know that the COVID's going to be gone. Everyone's acting
Yeah,
like
it is true.
we don't know that.
But you're acting like they've already shot. What I'm saying, those movies are already done though. Those
Black
three-
Widow's been done for a long time, but they're just holding out for the theater release, right? I guess contractually they have to, maybe. I don't
Maybe
know.
they do because that's what they ended up with. But the New Mutants thing was different because they ended up inheriting a deal that Fox had already made on distribution. That's why they couldn't just put it on Disney Plus because the first streamer had already been licensed out to somebody else.
They put it in the theater, right?
theatrical.
And
It did have a theatrical, and then it went
didn't.
to a digital.
Can you stream it now?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, really?
It's not on a streaming service, but you can you can do a digital.
Okay, because I'd like to see it. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's digital. You can rent it.
I heard it wasn't very good though.
It's not. I watched it.
Did you watch it?
It's okay, but
It's not going to be part of the
Got
canon, right?
guess not.
Any more than any
movie
other
about
Fox
them?
The New Mutants, which was a Fox thing.
The Mutants. I watched half of that. I watched half of it, then I haven't watched the rest of it. It's kind of like, yeah.
It's a weird thing to watch because you're like, I like this concept. If any of this was scary, it'd be cool because it's a scary concept, but none of it is scary. It all just comes off as soft.
It's just kind of boring.
Well,
It's
the
just like,
characters are all
you really
dumb.
tell a movie though when. Yeah, but it's like like there's certain TV shows and movies. This is true. I mean, sometimes it sounds cynical when they say like you got to get us in the first 3 pages or 10 pages, but some of that's true. When you watch the first couple of scenes of a show, even just the dialogue has to be interesting. Something has to be interesting. And that New Mutants movie you watched and was like, this is just boring. Now she's in a psych ward and this is just boring. All these conversations are boring.
Well, she starts telling that two wolves parable in the opening narration, and you're like, before she's 3 words in, you're like, is she going to talk about the 2 wolves? Because everyone knows that story. And then it's 2 bears, but then she only tells half of it, and you're like, well, now I know what the last line is going to be because it's going to be bookended with this idiotic. So that
You just do that all the time. What do I care about any of this?
yeah, but just Google it and see if it's a huge cliche. Don't make that the opening and closing of your movie.
There.
All right. So what do we think is going
He
to happen?
has spoken.
I have spoken.
This is the way.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this idea of taking it to the top of this temple and putting it there, and then it's gonna.
Yeah,
That's weird.
because this is like
It's
Rebels.
a very
They did
Star
this-
Trek-y thing to do.
They did this in Rebels, where they would go to a temple and they could actually talk across the galaxy to Yoda. That was like their way of having Yoda in it, and they go to like this
Like
weird.
the spirally ones, right? They come out of the ground or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was a pretty fun story. And they would go there and have like Jedi visions and things like that. And
Yeah, we haven't delved into that. Dave Filoni has a taste for the wild Jedi, like weird underbelly.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the spirituality of it. It is kind of fun because I think Jesse Gender called this out, and I thought it too because she says the same thing. It's like, I can't train him because he has an attachment to you. Like, dude, emotional attachments are not what makes Sith Lords. It's like repression of emotional attachments is what makes Sith Lords.
Mhm.
like
But then at
you
the
don't
end, she's
want
like,
him to be a
"Well,
sociopath as a prerequisite of Jedi training.
But she's also like, he should go with you because he's got an emotional attachment to you. I was like, well, I thought that was the point. I was like, no.
I kind of called it because she said almost exactly what I said she would say. And she's like, if I was you, I'd just take this baby somewhere and let him never be a Jedi.
Yeah, why not?
You want him to be happy. Why you want someone to train him? Do I look happy? No.
They left him on that first world that he went to with the little village and the ATSD.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
And they had the little
Eat
kids
frogs
playing
and
with
stuff.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
They left
That
him
also
there.
changes.
Of course, he'd probably be with like 10 generations of little kids, but
Well, because
But I guess they'd be hunting him.
yeah,
Right.
the idea before is that we didn't know that he got trained. So you didn't know if he was just this thing and these powers are manifesting because he's so powerful and that's a danger if he doesn't get trained. Apparently not the case. He'll just forget about it if he like lives a new life or something.
Question that though.
Yeah.
'cause even he's still a baby. I don't care how much training they gave him. He's still clearly a baby. Like there has to be some inherent ability
He was
here.
one of the little kids with the younglings with the lightsabers in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
He can't talk yet.
Like
I said, next time you watch, episode 2 on Disney
Yeah.
Plus,
You see a little one.
Grogu will be in the back.
Yeah, they'll add him in there, right? Yeah. Don't be surprised. I don't know what's going on with that. He has to choose, I guess, his future.
Well, then
He
also
sees
who's
the
other
Force and
Jedi
some-
now? What's the other Jedi is going to
Luke. They keep acting like it's got to be Luke. I mean,
Well, she
he's the big.
says
He
they're
is the
just-
main Jedi.
What I like about it, though, is she says there's just a few of us left, which suggests that there are other Jedis who survived she knows about and we don't, which I think is a fun idea.
It is
might-
fun,
well,
but
it might
it's got to be Luke. I mean, it'd be so dumb.
Well,
That's what I want. Yeah, you've got to have some. If you're gonna, you got to
Unless
tie
you
Luke.
start going into that weird, the Sabayoth direction, remember? Like where you have these weird
Or just-
Oh, yeah.
Jedis that are not fine.
Well, she's definitely aware of other force sensitive people because she runs into them in the book, in the Ahsoka book that came out a few years ago.
Oh yeah, that's right. Is that
Yeah.
considered
I mean, they're
canon
every-
still? Or
You got Bruce Boy out there.
I think it is. Yeah, I mean, it came out during the Disney era, so.
Yeah,
so
I think-
I think it is.
Maybe.
hard to say on that stuff sometimes, but yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't care how much they purged all the Jedis, and I don't care if Obi-Wan and Yoda thought there were no
How
more.
much you purged?
You don't care that they purged the Jedis?
I don't care. They had it
Jeez,
coming.
man.
Bastard.
I'm glad they purged
Yeah,
Jedis.
I'm gonna
I'll
say
say
something controversial here.
Hot take.
Yeah.
I'm glad the purge happened.
I'd do it again. Bop, bop, bop.
And I do it again. Bop, bop.
It's kind of like
Do it
Discovery. Like Discovery, where that guy comes in, it's like, oh, the burn's best thing ever happened to me.
Yeah. Doesn't mean much, but I'm gonna predict that they're gonna find out they caused the burn.
Burn.
I don't want her to do it because that's right, Michael Burnham. Burn, you got it. You and your mother have been wreaking havoc, travel all over the place. One of you caused the burn.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
burn.
Blew up all the
Burn.
You just got Gins burned.
Mike.
Anyway, back to Mando.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what happens next episode, and why hasn't Gideon started tracking him yet? We know that they've got the tracker, that he was on this planet for, I guess, just a day or two, but
They might
they're giving him a pretty long leash. That's all I'm saying.
They could be in orbit and just waiting and just seeing what he's doing.
Waiting for
That'd be
what?
Cool. Next episode.
Waiting for him to leave that Jedi planet.
Yeah, there's Ahsoka's
No,
down
no.
there. Yeah. He's like,
Wait till he goes to another desert.
So that would be kind of a cool thing. It's like, he's looking for force sensitive people. Well, apparently to steal their midichlorians,
And he's
maybe-
going to lead him to the Jedi mountain. I
That could be a
guess,
cool
right?
idea. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that they sort of are in on that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So like,
now that we're talking about it, I'm almost convinced that's going to be the like you said, Sean. I mean, they might do a Luke thing. I don't even think about that for this, but one of the last things is going to be like on board of a Star Destroyer, and it's somebody giving an order, and he's going to turn around. It's going to be Thrawn at the end.
Yeah,
of it.
and I'm gonna
You
lose
can just
it.
show me.
Yeah,
Look,
the-
Great.
Thrawn, you don't have to
lose it.
say anything.
yeah.
You're like, oh, cool. That's the end of this season.
Well, I'd kind of be okay with that if that happened.
That'd be the
Because-
dark saber reveal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you know what the direction of the next season, basically.
I just didn't want it to be Ahsoka because everybody knew Ahsoka was going to be in this.
Yeah,
season.
I think they did her because I think they're going to do the same formula they did last time. Even though they already kind of did that in the last episode.
That's why I think that
We're
we
gonna have a big
could see
get-together.
Thrawn a little sooner, since they already name dropped him. Like, if you were gonna reveal, to me it would be a more powerful reveal in that last moment, and we see it's Thrawn. If she just said, "Tell me where your master is," and they don't say who, and that's an ongoing mystery, and people would be like, "Oh, I hope it's Thrawn."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
And-
mean,
and-
we're not following anyone else's story except Mando. She's hunting Thrawn, but the way the show's been, we don't see what other people are doing. We only see what he's doing.
But we assume
So
that
he'll have to get he'll have to get roped back in with her somehow.
It's just like the New Republic
No, I
guys
think
that are
he's
trying to
Republic.
get Cara Dune to come back.
I
Like,
think
that's going to come back into the
Right.
story. It's not.
But I
just,
think
it's
Moff
not just a
Gideon-
dangling thread.
working for Thrawn. That's how we're going to get back to Thrawn.
Yeah, I think I tend to think that too.
So I read this weird thing about Snoke. I don't know. I would never catch this, but apparently the music playing during the scene where they find the clones in the Mando episode, the last one, remember,
Yeah.
is really similar to Snoke's theme. I didn't catch that,
Well, that's
but
cool.
that's what I read. I'd like to actually see. I'm sure someone on YouTube's compared the two where you can actually listen. I like to see if that's true, but that's kind of neat if they are kind of telling us that this is the origin of Snoke.
And I think that's fine because that We know that happened, so it's not a big reveal. It's just a tie-in.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, another use for force-sensitive clones, is to make Snokes.
The only thing I don't like about that is if we're saying that Moff Gideon is working with Thrawn, I don't think Thrawn is working with the Emperor for this cloning technology. So either the Emperor would have to reclaim that technology from them, and they're developing it for some other purpose, or
the Emperor is somehow pulling Thrawn's strings all along, and he doesn't know it.
I reject that. That I will not accept.
Yeah.
But,
right.
But maybe Gideon works for the Emperor and doesn't work for Thrawn.
In which case, it's weird that we have like two separate Imperial things going on at the same time.
Oh, I would wait to see that. Certainly, there would be some overlap.
I'd say it's probably would be Thrawn because it's pretty, everybody thinks the Emperor's dead at this point. I mean, unless you're really clued in.
If you think about it, though,
if you read the Aftermath books, now we don't see this in Rebels, but they say in the Aftermath books that Thrawn was supposed to be gathering a force in the unknown regions, or at least there was an Imperial force gathering in the unknown regions, and we assume that Thrawn was somehow to do with it because he disappeared in the unknown regions well, it's not stated outright in the Aftermath books. They keep hinting that it becomes the beginnings of the First Order because Hux is there with them at the end. Like Hux is there as like a kid with them because it's his father who's part of it. But we never fully see the Aftermath books end with Ray Sloan going off into the unknown regions to find these Imperial forces that have been gathered there, and there's a strong suggestion that they think that Thrawn might be there.
So what are we, 15 years before Force Awakens about, right? 20 years before in there, right?
As far as Mandalorian?
Yeah.
When was the Force Awakens supposed to take place after?
I thought it was like
after Jedi.
I thought it was like 20 years after Jedi.
Is it? Well, then it would be. Yeah.
So we're right in there in that spot. So now this ostensibly, there's a younger clone of Palpatine running around, finds a girlfriend, has a kid.
I don't want to see any of that shit in this show.
Yeah, this is why.
I don't mind seeing a jar of Snokes.
I just want to know how. This is like the adventures of young clone Palpatine.
Yeah.
This is why the sequels messed everything up. I mean, they've boxed you in. There's so much that.
There's so many other things that can happen in the universe that don't have any impact on that. I don't mind that. Those things can happen. They're fine. But I don't want this to lead to that. Like you can say this is the clone and this is how they cloned Snokes and things whatever. But
this is about the time she'd be. But like if she's just a normal person like we want her to be, it's fine. But they're saying right now there's a young Palpatine clone out there going off the reservation. Going on
so bad. It's so bad. Let's just admit it. Admit it, Sean. It's bad.
No, that's bad. He knows it's bad. That's all.
No. Greg's the only one defending Rise of Skywalker.
We need to get rid of it. We need to find a way to make that non-canon. Because
just ignore it and move on. We don't have to. There's no such thing as canon. All we have to do is make a better story now.
I agree with you in that you can enjoy some things and just ignore others. But they're boxed in the things they can do now because of the movie.
Certain things.
But they also should just get away from the
to
time
me,
too, though.
If that's where they went with it, all they did was identify the story traps. It's like, whoa, that's the shit we shouldn't have done. Like, thanks for falling on that mine for the rest of us. I'll do a story about something else.
The Battle of Starkiller Base happened about 34 to 35 years after the Battle of Yavin.
After Yavin.
Yeah, Yavin is.
That would be the
episode 4.
I know, but the way they calculate time.
What is the Battle of Starkiller Base exactly? That's the first episode Force Awakens, the planet that they. Yeah. Okay.
So
the third Death Star.
The Galactic Civil War ends at about 5 years after the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah, so it's like 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 6 or 7. Yeah, I mean, we're almost there. They're courting phase now, young
And
Palpatine.
therefore, we can deduce how much adventuring time Luke would have.
I just want that movie because it's like
Enough. It'd be enough.
Yeah.
Enough that we can do whatever we want with it. It would be fine. That's what I'm saying. There's a pocket of time between where we are now in Mandalorian and the time of Force Awakens that there's plenty of story that we can tell that nobody. It'd be worse than Force Awakens if somebody just started reciting the history of the last 40 years and then they really did just box off every galactic event that had taken place. But there's a lot of open-ended stuff out there to play with. And this one is, in particular, this time frame is one that they've been conspicuously absent in discussing. So I really do think this is the time to bring that up. And it being Thrawn, that's a perfect story to bring in. It'd be nice to bring in a Luke that we could actually have running around doing some of this stuff.
Well, but that's where you have to get the reframing of everything too, though. That's why I liked the again, the Thrawn books are neat because it takes away from the world and universe ending and gets into be more very local stories and these things happening. It'd be devastating for the Republic, but that doesn't mean the universe is going under the Sith rule or something. You know what I mean? Like, I like getting away from the save the universe stories and get more towards like this is just drama for these people. Let's worry about these people because we like them.
And Rebels kind of showed that you can actually do that in a low-key way where you get to see more of the spiritual side of it than you do in these movies. Like Rebels explored Jedi lore more to me than any of these movies have. So if you're really interested, if that represents the larger story to you, you actually get more of that in this kind of format than you do.
And Rebels
in
did
those
a good
movies.
thing by having them intersect with people from the main thing. But they didn't affect the main timeline much at all. Like it's not like Rogue One, where they have to be part of this thing. They're like, well, what Rebels wasn't about that. Rebels was about you liking those 5, 6 people in the crew, and you feeling, getting sad when they die or not. That was the show's about. Like, I want to get more back to that stuff. Or we did. I mean, this is part of my bigger theory is that I like this stuff. I love the Mandalorian. It's like candy. I love all these things. But as a Star Wars fan, I can't wait till they jump 400 years in the future and see what happens. Like that's the future of the franchise. They cannot stay in this.
Super fun, yeah.
They cannot stay in a 70-year period forever. This is like the most ridiculous thing in the world. At a certain point, like have stormtroopers and X-wings and all these things. At some point, it's like okay, let's move on.
I think the Mandalorian is a good, fun last effort to bring in those familiar elements and play with them in this kind of format where it is still
and that's why Star Wars Discovery is cool this year because they do jump in the future and all the they name some of the things the same, but it's very different than normal Star Trek and it's fun and it's good and it still feels the same, you know what I mean? Like that's what we need.
It's starting to really pay off. I'm really appreciating what they're doing with that storyline.
We need a reboot of just time period to get away, like you said, Brooks, just get away from this thing. Let's chart a new saga. We need a new era of history that we're.
Plus, you'll have an easier time with fans if you just come up with something new. When people are like, "That's not what Ahsoka Tano's like," God damn it, man! Seriously, like we can't give you anything. Like I can't imagine being more fan servicey than this episode.
Seriously,
and
not even just in characters and actors. You got Bruce there. You also got Michael Biehn.
Mother.
They brought that in for you, nerd. They got that in to make you guys happy. Come on. Anyone could have played that part. They brought Michael Biehn because they knew you wanted
are too
that.
short.
Huh?
Her tentacles are too short.
Maybe when they get older, their tentacles change
Can't
in
have
shape.
nice things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe they
Or
come
maybe
off
when they
like
stop being
a thinning
drawings
hairline.
and become flesh and blood people, they look different.
It's like a thinning hairline.
Yeah. No, don't start that because the next thing you know, somebody will want an expanded universe story about how somebody cut the tips of her snips off.
It is frustrating that that's the stuff that you can't please everyone.
I don't want to make fun, I really don't, but that stuff drives me nuts.
It's frustrating because it's like you're missing the point. You're focusing on the wrong part of the story here.
And also, it was a cartoon.
Yeah, they didn't have to bring Ahsoka Tano in.
Yeah, I know. It's like that's what I always want to ask them the question because the couple of reactions I saw, these people were like acting pretty butthurt about it. I'm like, do you not want them to do this, or what? I don't understand. It's like, do you not? This should we could not do any of this, and we wouldn't just have fun watching it. It's like it's a dumb.
It's frustrating because you're like, is it even possible to do it the way you want it to be done?
Yeah. What version of this makes you happy?
How are you going to get the original actress and make her look like the character? How are you going to do that?
Now, I will say you could, I think, pull that off with Sabine Wren if you've seen the actress who voices her.
Yeah.
If you bring in Sabine Wren, I think
also,
you really
it's just
could.
like, are we that attached? I mean, it's just a kind of a young girl's voice that kind of is good.
Well, I'm just saying, if you recast with a different actor, I'm not going to.
It's not like to
talk
me. It's
about
not
that
like
either.
The level of a James Earl Jones, like you really, really could tell the difference if anybody but him does it. It's like, I get it, but
James Earl Jones didn't play the actual person. And no one complained about that.
Oh,
he should be the one in the actual
we should
suit.
mention again, I guess, that
David Prowse died. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but
it is sad.
I realized that when he played somebody, that's fun to watch. It's in those documentaries that you can find on YouTube, is when they actually get the on-set audio.
Oh yeah, it sounds so weird.
Oh yeah, because he had like a full-on Scottish
The Rebel
accent.
Alliance and a traitor. Yeah, he still has a higher.
Where's Princess Leia?
Yeah, he's like, I'm
Sir.
human once. He's like, okay.
It is funny.
That was probably really weird, like in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, because everybody heard James Earl Jones, and like the crew and
definitely more awkward for David Prowse.
You see these these behind the scenes things with the actors from the first movie especially, and they were saying no one was taking it seriously. They all thought it was going to be horrible. And then you see that and you're like, well, I can kind of, if they didn't know they were going to replace the voice, right? I mean, the actors might not have known that. He's like pointing at him, and they didn't have to have any effects, so they didn't know. And then you see it.
Peter Mayhew said some of the lines and stuff too. Like,
I know it's disconcerting when he's just talking like a person.
Yeah, it's like, let's not do this. And you have little people inside of these droids. But
how does Chewbacca say lines? I mean, what were his lines? I'd like to see that.
There's like a scene where they're in the Death Star and he says something like, "The old man is daft," when Obi-Wan goes off. He's like, you said a mouthful, Chewie. And it's like, it's kind of fun to see that he did have.
So that's what the Chewbacca that's what I mean. That's what Chewbacca was saying when he growled.
They have intentions for him or whatever they did, at least in that first script.
That's neat.
I'd like to see
you're
that.
watching that as a sound guy. You're like, what the hell is this? They want you to stay overtime and not get paid for it. Like, oh no, we're going home. Sorry. This is not good.
Yeah. I feel like this one's going to shut down at the end of the week and then no one's going to get paid.
But I am sad to hear that he passed. It's 2020, man. It's really, I'm hoping 2021 won't be worse.
Yeah, I know. Because the last thing you're going to say, well, how could it be? It's like, damn you.
And then the bombs start falling.
Don't say that, man.
What's that? A meteor, that apotheosis or whatever? Is that what it is? Is that how you pronounce it? You guys know what I'm talking about at all?
No.
It's going to hit the Earth in 2065 and kill all of us. You guys don't pay attention to this stuff?
No, I haven't heard that one.
Well,
really?
By then we'll have had a good run.
Yeah. That's what we'll say as we watch the atmosphere burning.
Oh, well, we had a good run.
Oh, okay.
I got to see the end of Mandalorian.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
All right, guys.
Finally got to see Grand Admiral Thrawn in live action.
Right.
We tear it up ourselves before 2065.
Yeah. So if someone says that now, you're like, we're going to make it to 2065?
Awesome.
Yeah. That's a glass half full right there.
Man.
Cool. So excited. I really did enjoy this episode.
This is the best one this season. In fact, it might be one of the best ones of all.
This has got to be my favorite because this combines so many elements that I really enjoy about this show in particular, but stuff outside the show that they've incorporated. Because if this episode was, and this is a good test of this kind of thing, if this episode was characters we'd never heard of that they're talking about and that were in it, it would still be an awesome episode.
Right.
Like if this wasn't Ahsoka Tano and she didn't say, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" and that kind of stuff, it would still be an amazing episode.
What I wish we get for the rest of the season is, because what we're still missing in this season, just to be the devil's advocate, is any sort of kind of moral through line of what. So it's what's the point of the season? Like what? Because the first one is easy because it's like man, it's him coming kind of getting attached to this thing and becoming more in the zone and finding out here they're the family. And this one we got a hint in that Mandalorian episode, but then that's the only hint of any sort of storyline, which is maybe that he's like coming, like embracing the larger world, and takes a thing like I don't know, that could be part of it, but we haven't got any other hint of that anywhere. We sorted it out, you know what I mean? Like there's no like through line like there's no like kind of.
I'd like to see that become his particular arc. I mean, it can be a larger story as far as the universe, but the fact that it is Mandalore and they're Mandalorians, that just ties it to him, and I think that's a perfect thing to have him build to, is helping them to liberate the planet Mandalore.
Yeah, that's why I'd like for him to see too, and also like for him to do also is because he was sort of that dispassionate bounty hunter guy at the beginning, and
he opens up more and more, I guess, every season. I guess that could
and then now they get swept up in this new Mandalorian.
He teams up with a Jedi in this one, and he knows the history. And he's even like, a Jedi and a Mandalore, they'll never see it coming. Like it didn't bother him at all to forsake that tradition, I guess.
Yeah, because he's already setting those priorities. Yeah.
And he was actually having fun at the end of this episode. Like he was just like, I'm here to help. So he was like,
I like how the good old West scene where he's like fingering the pistol, got his hand resting on it.
And the guy does the obvious fake out. Like,
yeah. It sucks it was Michael Biehn on the end of that.
I'd love to see him, but I'd love to see him in a larger role. But they can't help themselves with a tombstone. He just like, I'm your Huckleberry.
In the foreground, or no, he's in the foreground, her back there on the roof, and like the wind's blowing and all stuff. Like that's a cool, weird samurai.
Oh yeah, they had all kinds of awesome action angles and shots, and
and this one was written and directed by Dave Filoni, so he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, man, it really encouraged me about the future of the show.
I mean, I think he should do more. I actually think. I mean, I know Jon Favreau got started.
Well, that too. Yeah, everyone seems to think so. But just last week, Greg was asking, is the writing bad? It's like this episode, I think, shows us they're in it's in good hands.
The writing is still
into
simple.
The complexities of
it's Star Wars, man. I don't want too complicated. Let Star Trek handle all the political questions.
I'm saying that Dave Filoni, that's what I'm saying. He's steeped in all the complexities, but knows how to deliver it for a show that's sort of for kids and easy watching for adults. So
you talking about Dave Filoni?
Yeah, that's what Clone Wars is.
Yeah, to me, he's kind of the keeper of the flame. I feel like
he has all the backstory, but they present it in a very digestible way. Mm-hmm. Whereas it wouldn't be in other places. Like watch Rebels. You still haven't watched Rebels. Rebels has a lot of crazy backstory, and it's pretty straightforward how they present it.
And he came up under Lucas, so he's very respectful of what Lucas wanted to do.
He's the only chosen successor by Lucas, right? Like he's the one that Lucas chose to kind of work.
I thought Kathleen Kennedy was his chosen successor.
Well, to run Lucasfilm, but that's a business decision. I'm talking about like the creative aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't he have more input in the sequels?
You can work there then.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
Oh, never mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, apparently he did have an idea, but it was sort of out there.
He went to work there later, like odds, like after 2005, because he made Avatar. He worked in Avatar, the last Airbender, Nickelodeon first, and then they said one day that Lucasfilm. That's when they said they called. It's in that documentary thing. George, like he's like George.
It's fun.
George Lucas's phone is like, excuse me, George Lucas is on the call on the phone.
Take a message.
Yeah.
just have him say, Phantom Menace, what the hell, man? And then hang up.
Leave a message, Jar Jar, click.
Jesus.
I mean, I don't think you would have gotten the prequels. I think that's the cool thing about Filoni, because he was the person who kind of talked through it with him for that some stuff. You might not have gotten the same version of these movies if you had him before that. just sit there and go, "Oh, let's talk about this real quick. Hold on." It's like,
Well,
what are you doing?
he was not as experienced. Dave Filoni was not as
Right.
experienced at those times either. It's funny to say to try to retroactively apply that because his experiences with Lucas are what make him so good at making these
Right.
decisions.
I know that's what I'm saying though. But after that, things became much more measured out of them, what they created and what going to Disney and even all these other things.
It's a
Yeah.
perfect balance too between him and Favreau because they're both fans of Star Wars, but he's got more of the firsthand input from Lucas and what Lucas was trying to do with it, and so it's
And
not
I
just
only
like
think
I like the original movies, but I don't like the prequels. It's like he's in for all of it, He's
Well,
like-
and I only think the only issue we've had, and again, two of you guys have different opinions, but I feel like in the first Force Awakens, Kasdan was in there enough of the time with him. He wrote half the movie with him, most of the movie with him. And then I think Rian Johnson, he worked with that story team. He lived there while he was writing that script, right? All that stuff was with them. If you don't like it, you don't like what they thought too. But I think by the end, JJ he's too big of a name
just threw out everything.
to be like, no, you shouldn't do that. And we're like, no, I think this is good. I'll do this. Like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Everything else they do now is part of that story group all kind of agrees on. And JJ's just too big of a star to kind of
He can just come in with his own ideas and get it done.
really.
Yeah.
I don't think he did that in Force Awakens as much. And then Ryan worked with that team. I mean, whether you like the results or not. But by the third one, it's like you can tell he didn't talk to that team at all. Just from the stupid chronocron thing. It's just like say one word in the script different. It's like that's what it's in the Lego Star Wars movies, for Christ's sake. Like,
Oh,
look
have you
just
guys
like
have you
it.
seen the new holiday special?
No,
That's
I
up
need to
there.
watch it.
It's cute. It's out on Disney Plus.
There's
now.
what is it?
It's on,
There's a Lego Star Wars holiday special.
Is it true
I
to
didn't
the
know that.
original?
does it have,
What's that?
Is it true to the original?
It makes references.
That's
It has a lot of fun. It's the sequel characters, which is fun on a new adventure, but it makes it revolves around a Life Day celebration, and they,
Well, they already
Well, that is fun. I want to see that.
it's cute.
How weird.
Real cute.
I like that. That was in the first season of. That's the first episode. They say Life Day and Mandalorian.
That's why you got to also love Jon Favreau. He does have an old school appreciation. He's the other side of it. Like he's a fan of the Star Wars stuff that George Lucas doesn't like.
Right.
Yeah.
But Filoni's a fan of the Star Wars stuff that Lucas is really trying to
Because he was a
bring in
kid,
too, so that
right.
they're a perfect blend of representing those different ways of looking at the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's the difference between him and Filoni. All of them, he was born of that generation. He was born in 66, so he was 10 years old when the movie came out. So it's like they were actually that generation to experience it. And all that ephemera too that George Lucas just thinks is a mistake. It's like, no, this is good stuff. Boba Fett with the spear and all those other things and Ryan the dinosaur. That's great.
Yeah, that's where you had it right. And you see that in Mandalorian because they've sort of carved out this new and more interesting mythology for the Mandalorians without trying to erase what we've already seen and stuff like Clone Wars. And that, to me, that's why I say you don't have to worry about canon or throwing out canon. Just carve yourself out a new piece of the mythology.
Mhm.
There's room for more than one interpretation within the same canon.
Yeah, I used to have a big issue with it about like getting rid of all the, legacy stuff that's completely out of the timeline. But I'm getting to where I appreciate it more because, like you said, like you take the best parts of that old stuff and bring it back, like Thrawn and the Clone Wars, Mandalore storylines, was done under Lucasfilm before Disney, but it was good enough to carry over into the Disney era, and they're going to continue. It sounds like they're going to continue to push that forward.
Well, they sort of adopted. I mean, when Star Wars had all these levels of canon, I don't think they have as many levels of canon, but at the top level of canon, there was always the G canon, which was whatever George says. is canon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then it cascades down from there. Whatever havoc it wreaks on anything else that was said, you guys can sort that out any way you want. But if George Lucas put it in something, it's part of the core canon.
Yeah.
And that's how Clone Wars got grandfathered in. When Disney bought it, they threw out all of the expanded universe stuff, and the only things they accepted were the movies and the Clone Wars. And then there were a couple of novels that were based on unproduced scripts from Clone Wars that were also considered part of new canon because they were related to Clone Wars. And then everything else was like, only if we ever feel like it. Everything else was Legends until further notice. And I think that was a good move. Because there's some good stuff that you can mine from Legends, and they are doing that. But there's a bunch of garbage stuff, like embarrassingly bad fanfic crap in the old Legends continuity that is just inexplicable and unforgivable. The things that they tried to do. So
Yikes.
to say, man, read Tales of the Bounty Hunters as an anthology and tell me if those stories enrich the Star Wars universe or if they're just embarrassing bad.
Well,
I got to get going, guys.
talking about canon, and the show normally covers the lowest of the low level of canon that there is, which is the Marvel comics from the movies, from the
Like,
original.
whoa.
Oh,
It's a rough channel
I'm
to be making
not
those
saying-
claims on.
I'm not saying it in a bad
that's
way.
actually- well,
Yeah, I'm
to
not
your
saying-
point,
Yeah.
in the old system before Disney, that was what they would consider the S canon, which was secondary canon. And S canon was things that had been created before. The same thing Disney did, and everyone was like, I don't see how you could ever do this. Like, they did the exact same thing in 91. They do this all the time, periodically. It's like when Heir to the Empire and all that stuff came out, they were like, everything before now, it doesn't count. Like, we're not going to be beholden to things that were in the Marvel Star Wars comic unless we feel like bringing them in. Lady Lumaya from the comic is in Legends novels. Like, they brought her in.
Oh, I know that.
But they didn't have to. Somehow Hoojibs had never made the cut, and that makes me mad. I would like to see some Hoojibs, please.
Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson, and even Jackson's in like the new comics. Where are my Hoojibs, man? What
Are
about
Zeltrons around?
Yeah, what about Zeltrons? And what about Hoojibs?
Good place to leave it, guys. I got to go. You guys can keep on chatting.
Yeah, I'll leave that question open. For
What about Zeljibs and what about Jibs?
what about Zeltrons and what about Hoojibs?
All right. Well, let's
Tell me
close it
that,
out.
baloney.
Thanks for watching. Check out tv8mydinner.com. Check out
Check out-
TV8 My Dinner on YouTube.
Yes, cranking out new videos there. Go to tv8mydinner.com and you can see the YouTube channel videos as well. But go to the channel and subscribe. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that already. Watch and like the videos on both channels.
You can listen
least
to the
the more recent
podcast where Greg and Andrew feature prominently.
More stuff going on.
Sean's got a book on Amazon.
The Cosmic
we-
Unconscious
Yep.
that we plug
Check that out.
in every episode. So get that. We get sales, so maybe it works.
Yeah, it's working.
It
I
may
feel
work
like it's
one
working.
episode at a time. So buy that and read it and
Hey,
enjoy
man,
it.
you got to keep hitting that message. It's just, yeah.
And I'm totally psyched about episode 6, man.
Yeah, very fun stuff.
We still
So
got
stick
3
around.
episodes left, so who knows what kind of craziness I could get into. now.
And look, we're doing a week for week show that so far we've done every week. We might
Yeah.
make it. I don't
It's
know
the
what we'll
first,
do
the
to
first for
celebrate.
us.
If
Not
we
that
have-
anyone
if
else
we
cares,
do
but
a week for week review of the entire season, that will be a first.
Yeah, during the actual week that it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not always easy, but videos no less. So we do what we can. So check all that stuff out and check us out on Facebook
Yep.
as well. TV8 My Dinner and Expanding Universe are our Facebook pages. So check those out.
like and subscribe. We'll see you
Like,
soon.
subscribe, click the bell, and get
Bing, bing, bing.
notifications and whatnot.
My name's Brooks.
I'm Sean.
I mean,
Greg. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And
Amateur hour. Go, Andrew.
I said I'm Andrew.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I think it got clipped off by Greg's rude intrusion.
Well,
I'm
I
just teasing. I'm just playing. We need to work out. We need to work out an order
I
that
was
we.
the last one.
We need to work out an order so that we don't step on each other next time.
As we leave, I do like how the last thing about the episode, I do like how when she says, "May the force be with you," he's like, okay.
Yeah. Cool word.
Like, gotcha. All right, bye.
Solid.
I am Greg.
And we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Snoop.